let's focus in on the U.S. schedule, Herc, because we also have that as well. The U.S. is going to open the tournament on June 12th in Los Angeles, out there at SoFi. From there, they're going to go to Seattle for their second game, and then back to Los Angeles for the third game of the group phase. What do you think of the U.S. setup?
So, if I'm thinking about it just from the plazas or regions that teams would like, that are desirable, it's a top 3 region. For my money, it's number 1. I mean, weather, accessibility, just everything about it, facilities. SoFi is where you want to be. The U.S. men's national team made out. Now, I know people are going to be like, well, that's not where they ever play. Listen, the whole thing with the U.S. men's national team is to spread the wealth, go it around. And when the U.S. men's national team plays, I know they don't usually fill up football stadiums or large stadiums. They don't do it anyways. And when they do play, they play in soccer-specific stadiums, specifically in the Midwest, to limit their rivals' fan base. That won't be the case here. I do see pro-U.S. men's national team crowds in Los Angeles and Seattle. Let me talk about Seattle. I'm so glad Seattle is getting its due. Now, I know we hear so much about Soccer City, USA, the soccer capital of America. This is U.S. soccer right now giving Seattle, the Pacific Northwest, its crowning moment. There is no city in the continental United States that could presume its professional heritage like Seattle. Over 5 decades of professional football, NASL, USL, MLS, and that's only on the men's side. Indoor soccer, whatever the case may be, collegiate soccer, the Pacific Northwest is one of the prime examples of good football and its history in this country, and I'm so glad it's getting its due.
Yeah, it's not your usual suspects, right? If we think about where U.S. soccer has taken the U.S. men's national team, when U.S. soccer is in control, it's a lot of Columbus, Minnesota,
Cincinnati,
Nashville, Cincinnati. We've gotten some games in Orlando, a little bit on the East Coast, but we really haven't gotten much, East Coast, certainly out on the West Coast, at least in recent history. There was a time when the U.S. played a lot of games, very important games out in California. Recently, when they play those big games, it's usually a CONCACAF event, right? You're going up against Mexico, and maybe the crowd can be difficult. I agree with you that I think the U.S. will have no problem, massive home field advantage in Seattle. I think it's going to be a little different in L.A. Of course, the recent examples are all against your Mexicos.
Let's wait.
Your right, but Herc, whatever continent their opposition comes from, there are people from that continent and whatever country it is in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the top teams in Asia, Korea. Tons of Korean Americans in Southern California.
I knew you would say that.
Iran. There's people from South America. You put a South American team in LA. Are you sure that the U.S. is going to have home field advantage?
So, any other game, I would say no. They'd be massive underdogs in terms of what the setup is or the split is of the fan base. But you know this very well. Americans get up for a few things. And international events like the Olympics and the World Cup are those events they get up for. The American fan base, or whatever you constitute the American fan base of, is one of the most well-traveled fan bases in the world for these events, international events. The casuals tune in, every 4 years, whether it's the Olympics or whether it's the World Cup, they'll drop by. And if it's in their yard or close to them and they get a chance to see a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity thing like the World Cup, I think they'll show up. Yeah.
It's worth noting also just the travel here, right? What's the flight from L.A. to Seattle? 3 hours, something like that?
No, it's 2:15, 2:20.
So you got 2 flights, combined time like less than 6 hours to get up and back. That's nothing, and it's going to be really important because travel is going to be a factor in this tournament, much as it was, if you remember, at the Copa America Centenario back in 2016. There was a lot of teams going back and forth. There was a lot of complaining then. So, and if you see what we learned here, if you finish first in your group, you're going to be set up for a nice little kind of run without travel. But if you finish second, you got more travel. And if you're one of the third-place teams that goes through, forget it. You're going all over the place. So very critical for both U.S. and Mexico and anybody else who wants to make a big run.
We'll talk about Mexico right now.
Yeah, we will. But for you to finish first in your group, because you don't want to be going all over the place. The U.S. won't have to travel much in the group phase, but they don't take care of business, Herc, and that could get ugly.
Yeah, again, it depends on the draw, right? We're sitting here talking about them being, the weaker fan base in their own country. depends on the draw, because there's certain countries that draw just extremely well. If they're playing against a Brazil, if they're playing against a Mexico, if they're playing against one of those massive, well-followed teams, yes. But I think you're underestimating the U.S. fan base here.
Okay, maybe. I know the U.S. fan base will be excited if what promises to be a special day, July 4th, 2026 in Philadelphia, if the U.S. is playing a round of 16 game there, could you imagine? I know it's all on the West Coast to start, but if they get to El Quinto Partido, you could have you want to have another 94 flashback. Same deal in 94, right? Round of 16, Brazil, July 4th at Stanford. What a special moment that would be.
Yeah, all you need is for it to be England, and would make it special in Philadelphia, the birthplace of America.